All right, so we're going to tackle the next part of NFS, and that part will be the actual AutoFS. So essentially, one of the tricks what we're going to do is we're going to make it to where you can just simply, easily have a link in your folder, and it looks like it's just one of these folders in the system, and then I double click it like this, and it goes right into the folder, and it automatically mounts the NFS server to the client here, like this, seamless. And the end user has no idea that they're on the server. So here they are, they're on the server right now, and it looks like they're just in a folder in their browser. So earlier we did this NFS client, but we had to manually mount it, and you had to be root to do that. And of course, that's not a good solution when you go in the client. So if you have like 1,000 clients, you don't want to run around and type in for each client, the password for root and amount for each person for every time they need a mount drive. That's insane. That's not going to work. So you need something that will work, and what will work will be AutoFS, and this is the best solution. And you don't have to worry about it not booting up at boot time or any issue like that. It's on demand. So when you go to access it, it mounts, and that's when it mounts, and that's when it works. So yeah, that's ideal. And you don't have umpteen people also in the office all booting up the computers at the same time, logging on to essentially the NFS server. So that's great, right? Because they only log in when they need to. So you don't get this massive rush when everybody comes in at 8 or 9 or 10 a.m. and boots up their computer all at once, as a company. And that's just, a lot bigger hold on the company. Whereas when people come into their system, they get in, then they can just, when they need to go to the folder, they click on it and then it mounts. So it reduces your internet traffic also. Because then, what if they don't even need anything in that folder the whole day? It doesn't have to get mounted the whole day. So if they never click on it and go into it, it never gets mounted. So, there's a good example of that. So this makes a lot of sense. So let's look at how to do that real quick. Now we have a script for doing that, of course. I wrote another script. Go figure. The script that I wrote here is going to be NFS AutoFS.sh. So again, it's NFS AutoFS.sh. It's a good name for it, because basically we're doing NFS with AutoFS. And then, of course, it's .sh. So we're going to save it again into the scripts folder right here, like this. And then you're going to name it like this. And after you name it, you type in pound exclamation mark /bin/bash for the actual bash shell, and then install the repository for AutoFS so that the program can be installed. And then install the AutoFS program, and then enable AutoFS to run at boot, and start AutoFS right now without the need to reboot the system. So essentially we're going to come in here. First off, we need to install a repository, and so that's what we're doing there. So we're installing our repository, so that way we actually have the AutoFS package. Otherwise, we wouldn't necessarily be able to do that. And then we're going to install AutoFS itself. And I'm putting the -y in here, so that way we don't have to say yes to it when it goes through. It just makes it easier. So it just runs and does everything it needs to do. Then we do systemctl here again, and we're going to enable AutoFS on the system so we can make use of that server. And then we're going to start it. So, that way when it boots up with enable here, it boots up, it comes up automatically working already for AutoFS. And then we're going to start it right now, so we don't have to restart the computer, and it just saves a lot of time and effort. All right, so the next thing we're going to do, this goes pretty easily here. We're going to add NFS to the AutoFS so that it will generate a new folder on the system called NFS. This new directory will be created at the /NFS. So what we're doing here is we're going to create a new auto mounting file system, and we're creating a whole new file, but we need to record that new file inside of AutoMaster, because AutoMaster is the master auto mounting file, and this is where you reference all your other files for auto mounting systems get stored. Reference to those files get stored in auto.master. So we need to put basically a reference to our NFS server file, so that way it can make use of this. So that's kind of important. And we need to call this NFS server. NFS like this. Sorry, my mistake. All right, so you're going to say echo here, space, in quotes, /NFS, space, /etc, /auto.nfs. And then we're going to append this to the end of /etc /auto.master. And you can do stuff like that. If you want to get fancy with it, You can even get a little crazier with it. You can say echo here, and we can say nothing at all, and then we're going to just append that first to /etc slash auto.master, and this just makes things a little prettier in the file when you go into edit or check the file in AutoMaster. This will actually space it between it and something else. So you could even add a comment in here or something of that nature if you wanted to inside of that configuration file. Anything like that, really. But essentially, this just puts a blank line in the file before we have this line inserted into the file at the end. So that way it doesn't smash it up against something else from another file and make it confusing when you go back to read the file. Again, if you wanted to, you could also echo out a comment in there, so that way you can describe what this line is for. But basically, once it goes auto mount this AutoFS, NFS file system, it will create a directory called NFS, and it's going to store it in there automatically, which is really cool. So it's just kind of like /media on your drive is set up for doing CD-ROMs, DVDs, floppy disks, anything like that where hot mounts it, like for instance USB hard drives, etc. Anything like that is going to go put automatically in the media folder and appear in there. So we're doing the same thing, but we're going to do it for NFS, and so it's going to get, instead of like in a media folder, it's going to go inside an NFS folder. And then all the NFS shares that would be happening from different servers or whatnot will appear in the NFS folder. And so that's really cool, and it gets mounted on the client side that way. All right, so of course this is a client side setup. This is not server side. This is a client side setup. So add the NFS server folder to the NFS folder and have it mounted to the localhost /NFS server. So that's what we need to do here. So essentially, we're going to echo out NFS server here, space -rw, soft, initer, and then space, and then here we're going to have our server, which in this case is localhost for us. If it is another server, you could access it in there too. And then /NFS server here. And then we're going to have this overwrite whatever is in this file, and it's going to be /etc/auto.nfs. And so this entry is going to get created inside the auto.nfs file that we created a reference to in the auto.master file. And this is essentially going to make NFS server appear when it gets mounted dynamically inside of the NFS folder. So when this gets mounted, it's going to be /NFS/NFS server. And that's what's going to appear. So that's what this little name right here says. Basically, was the name of our, they say a key in the file, but essentially this is the name of the folder that auto gets created inside of whatever your folder is for this group of hot mounted devices or auto mounted devices. So that's pretty cool. And then this is pointing to the actual location where it is on the server here. And then this is getting to stipulations of how should we treat this. So soft is being used here instead of a hard connection, and that's so that way if you have any bumps or problems across the network or slowdowns or whatever across the router or whatnot, it doesn't just automatically drop the connection, and it maintains the connection. The downside of the soft is, of course, that by setting it soft, you can have problems persist and go along and not know about it because it kind of like fails in the background, whereas hard will fail right up front and center, and so you know for a fact, hey, we got a problem right now. So if you want that kind of functionality, you can say hard here. If you got a solid connection, you could get away with hard. But if you have a weaker connection, if you're going across the internet, across the world or something like that, you definitely want to use soft because you could have drop connections and things can happen, drop packets along the way, and you're going to need a more flexible connection for that to deal with those connection setups. RWs can be read-write, of course, and of course the default is read-only for NFS. So by setting it to read-write here, we can allow for reading and writing to the folder, which is important. And again, we're just creating this file. So the single greater than, of course, creates it, and it gets stored like so. Cool. All right, so below that is an example. Keep going here. All right, that's too far. Not really, it's too far. Okay. Okay, so below is an example of how to add another NFS share from another server. Trying with your lab, try with your lab mate if you'd like by using an IP address instead of some server. Okay, so it's just an example of connecting to someone else's. If you do want to connect to someone else, make sure you take out this pound sign here. I just commented it out. It's because this just is an example. If you don't end up doing it, just put it in as an example so you have it in the file. But echo here in quotes here, pound sign, another NFS share. So essentially, this is to be the name of the folder. Of course, you can come up with a better name for this for your lab mates share to appear on your AutoFS inside the /NFS folder. And then dash here, RW, comma soft, comma INTIR, sorry. And then here's the name of their server or IP address. Again, if you're going to use the name of the server, that name has to be in the host file, and the IP address has to be stored in there. So colon here slash another NFS share, and then whatever the name of their directory is on their side, on their end. And then greater than, because you're appending this to your file, /etc slash auto.nfs. All right, now we're going to restart the AutoFS system so that you make changes take effect immediately without the need to restart the entire computer. So we're just going to do a systemctl space restart space AutoFS.service. And this is going to restart our AutoFS and make all the stuff we've done take effect. All right, so test that is working. And what this does is this automatically mounts when we do this command. So when we just say /NFS /NFS server, what this will do, and I'm sorry, that needs to be an ls in front of that. If it would put the cursor where I want it to go, that should be an ls right there. Sorry, so if you do an ls like this, NFS /NFS server, what this will do is this will automatically list the files inside an NFS server. And the moment it does this, it will actually make the auto mount connection. It'll actually connect immediately with the NFS server, and bam, you're mounted right up there on the fly. So if everything went right, then this should work, and it should display the files inside this folder. If that happens, you shouldn't get an error message. If you get an error message, just above, you type something wrong. But if you didn't, you will get the files for this directory, and it auto-mounted, and basically it worked. That was it. And so the last thing we're going to do here is we're going to create a symbolic link. So we're going to create a symbolic link so that this just appears as a link on the end user's folders in their system. So if you come back over here and you look at it real quick again, if we come back over into this, you'll see it over here. So we did the NFS server, and here's our symbolic link. So I can just click on it like that and pop in, and it'll automatically mount for me. So we're going to set that up so that it's just this handy little icon right here in the end user's computer, and they have no idea that they're actually going on to the server to access the files right then and there. So very, very cool, very powerful, and makes life so much better for everyone involved, including yourself. All right, so here in order to create a symbolic link, we're going to do ln space -s, and then here we're going to do /NFS /NFS server. Okay, so we're going to link with that, and then we're going to, of course, because we, this is our directory to our client side, and then we're going to store it as a symbolic link inside of home/student, right? And then the symbolic link itself is going to be called NFS server, like this. And then that makes it called NFS server sitting in the student home directory. Basically, just like this right here. See, so it's NFS server right here, and makes it create this folder in here, or link, if you will. It's not technically a folder, technically it's a link, but it looks like a folder. All right. And then the one thing we need to do after that is, of course, change the permissions on it, the ownership of this link here. So we're going to make it where student owns it. So it owns it, and also the group on it. So in order to do that, we just say chown here, space student, space /home/student /NFS server. Because remember, when you create something with root, it's automatically going to have the ownership of the owner, and the group is going to be root, always. It's true for any user. If you create a user with student, you create a file with student, or a folder with student, or anything like that, or a link, it's going to be the owner of that file, link, or folder is going to be student for the user and student for the group every time. So you need to change it. So we're going to change it to student for the owner of it, and we're going to change it to group here, chgrp for change group, and it's going to be your student here. So we're going to change the group to student. Also, you could change it to staff if you liked, but we did student. And then /home/student/NFS server. And of course, that changes that ownership for that symbolic link for the group. And that is it. And once you do that, once you run this script, it will create that symbolic link and it'll just make it work like I just showed you. So if I come in here to my terminal at this point, and there is a terminal right here. No, sorry, not the terminal. Wrong place. Hold on a second. Hold that tick. All right, there we are, right? And I am in my scripts folder. I need to do an ls again, and in this case, I need to say NFS because I don't want to see all the scripts in there. I just want to see just the ones with NFS. And there's our NFS AutoFS.sh. So first of all, I'm going to give it execute permissions for this. So chmod plus x, and then that's NFS AutoFS.sh like that. And now it has execute permissions. I can just use sh here to do NFS AutoFS.sh like that to run it. I run it and magic happens. Of course, it doesn't work. Why not? Oh my gosh. Well, because you're not root. So you need to be root. So su space dash dash for and then password. Boom, there we are. And then I need to run this again. I'm too lazy to go type that in, so I'm just going to highlight it like that. I'm going to middle click to paste it and then hit enter. Awesome. And bam, there it goes. And of course it says, oh, it fails because you already have it. Yeah, I know. But otherwise, it created it, it worked, it's done, that's it. And we're good to go. So we can just test it afterwards. Go here to our file folder, and we can just double click on it, and bam, it worked. Yep. So that whole setup I just did, it just created it, made it happen, made it work, and we're connected, and it's good to go. And ta-da, now we are networked with NFS with AutoFS, and that was all there was to it. So just upload that script, and then show a screenshot of this symbolic link in here, and then maybe another screenshot of you going into it with the files, and that's good to go. I'm happy with that. Thank you very much.